Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Jenny Luby. And I'm so excited. I know you've heard me say this a million times. Every time I say it, you're probably like, are you full of shit? But no, I am excited to talk to my guest this week because it's really cool to talk to another woman who does comedy, but also to like learn more about her because I don't know that much about Jessica. So of course I'm diving right in without telling you who I'm talking about. Every week, I like to say how I know my guest. And I know it could be annoying, but I just like to always encourage curiosity, getting out there, getting to know people, not being closed off, just whether you're getting out there online a little bit or really in person, whether you're connecting at an event or a networking thing or business, just like staying connected with people because you never know how you can help them or vice versa. And I just think it's important to have a community and being able to support one another. So my guest this week is someone we did actually connect first on social media, seeing others posts and just like maybe even having a couple private messages. And it wasn't until last year in the Lehigh Valley that I got to meet Jessica Delfino. That is who my guest is this week. I got to meet Jessica last year in Lehigh Valley's funniest competition. That was our first time meeting in person. Since then, I've had the pleasure of working with Jessica. She does a lot of great comedy shows, a lot of them in the Poconos, and I was able to perform in one back in January, and then a great fundraiser she did in March. And she's working on something really cool right now, the first Pocono Comedy Festival, and we'll talk about all of that. So we'll get into it. Welcome, Jessica.
Hello, Janine. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I am so glad to get to talk to you more because I also have been watching you and sort of, seeing the things that you do, and you do so much. And I've always wanted for us to be able to get to talk more. And I'm glad we're getting to do it in front of an audience of people. It's like basically we're having like our first sort of coffee hang in front of an audience.
Yeah, yeah. Which I actually like that vibe. And I've had some listeners tell me like when they've heard different conversations, it's like, no, I like that. It's like I was eavesdropping at a coffee shop. I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
that works for me. So it's true. We really like I don't really know you that well, and I do admire all that you're doing. But before we get into the comedy, if you want to share just a little bit about yourself, and then I really want to ask you about your whole history because you've been performing for a while and I want to hear about your experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like a real onion. There's a lot of layers and levels. I grew up in Maine in a small town, and I moved to New York City to do comedy. And since then, a million things have happened. I've been doing comedy forever. I started in my early 20s, and I'm now 102. So I've been doing comedy for a long time. And I have, a family. I have two children, which some people, in some ways, that's really helped the comedy. In other ways, it's sort of hindered it. And in addition to that, I do a lot of things in my community. I work for the state rep here, and I do a lot of work in my community. But at any rate, that's just a rough background. I'm married. We have two cats. One of them is 40 pounds. Um, not our fault, just a giant cat. What else? I live in the Poconos. I love it. Have been here since 2016. But I also have some roots in New York City still. I go there. I have a place in Chinatown that I go and spend time in. And yeah, I mean, I have loved getting to know the community here. There's an awesome, thriving little comedy scene. I feel like it's like the little comedy scene that could. It's really like, like there's always something going on. And it's so interesting because it's so spread out over kind of a big area, and it encompasses a lot of different counties, and people really get on the road. They're like, I'm doing an open mic tonight. It's 2.5 hours away, but I don't care. And I'm like, wow, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, if you think about it, though, it's not that much different than taking the subway from Manhattan to Queens some nights. It was definitely a hike. So
Similar experience there. Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned Maine, and I'm like, oh, I did know that only because I saw your Instagram when you were, I guess, visiting,
yeah,
vacationing or going back to Maine. And you had this like reel of all these different places that you should visit in Maine. And I was like, oh, that's where she's from. Yeah. So,
yeah.
so then you made it, you were in New York. Let's talk to me a little bit about your experience in New York. Like, were you there? And I know this, you're probably not going to like this terminology, but like trying to like make it like, were you going there like, this is what I'm going to do? Like, I'm getting that
Yeah.
HBO or Netflix special. Like, is that what the mindset was?
Yeah, I mean, I went to art school in Philadelphia, and I started comedy in college there, and I was just like, this is where I always want to be for the rest of my life, is on this stage, on a stage. I really I find that the stage is really my happy place. It's like my safe space. It's it really gives me an opportunity to express myself, and it has helped me to build confidence and to develop my voice. And I mean, I can't say enough great things about comedy as a personal like activity that I enjoy doing, but it's also a very giving activity. Over the years, I've interacted with a lot of people who are like, oh my goodness, I really just needed to laugh tonight, and thank you so much. So it's definitely a two-way street, because in the same way that people are coming up and saying, oh my gosh, thank you, I'm like, well, no, thank you, because I need you to be there to want to laugh in order for me to be able to do what I do as well. But yeah, so being in Philadelphia was a great first experience in comedy, because the audiences were very nice and very encouraging. And, there was some hard times too. There was chicken thrown. There were some experiences. But also it really gave me like the planting of a seed of like, this is what I want to do forever. From there, I moved to New York City, and I just started hitting the clubs. I started showing up and it's like basically a really easy process to get past at any club. And I don't think that people, comedians necessarily really even know, but you have to pick a club and just go there every day. That's really all there is to it. And there's a lot of clubs in the city, and there's a lot of different clubs and different vibes. And, so it's just like really finding kind of any community that clicks for you. And I found a couple clubs that I really liked, and they became sort of my regular spots. And I met all kinds of amazing people, because you never know who you're going to bump into in the city, all kinds of various celebrities and celebrity comedians. I remember one night Alicia Silverstone was in the audience at one of my shows, and she booed me. That was really funny, because I did a joke about like hating cows. It was like I was like, I'm a vegetarian because I hate animals. And she was like, boo, boo, because she's like a very, vegan, like is her whole thing. So and it was kind of a funny exchange. It wasn't intended to be malicious, and afterwards we had some laughs about it and everything. But yeah, being in the city is a great experience. I think everyone who wants to do comedy should definitely do it in a big city, because you're going to learn so much, and you're going to learn it fast, and you're going to fall on your butt a lot, and you're going to have a lot of opportunities to do that. I did on average about 5 comedy sets a night, which is so great for a young comedian. It really gives you a sense of like, developing a set quickly and seeing what works. And you get a chance to do that in like a tornado mode. Whereas in the burbs or whatnot, it's going to take a lot longer. And so I did 5 sets a night. My record was 16 sets a night.
Oh my God.
I believe that I may be the female comedy set record holder. There's a video of it on YouTube of me doing 16 sets in one night. And that was an amazing experience. And only in New York City, can you have that kind of opportunity. So
yeah, that's amazing. My hat's off to you. I admire anyone who does that, because that's a commitment. And it's, and you're right, New York, my gosh, I did get to perform at a newcomers, new whatever the heck night at Gotham years ago. It was like a Sunday night, a snowy Sunday night in December, where I had my family with me. And it was a nice audience. It was a small audience, maybe because of the weather. There was like maybe 15 people, and half of them were the family of this other guy. But it was, it was nice, and everyone was very kind and everything. And but that was my only experience in New York. And I know I missed out on that. I know that's so different. But like now at 53, I'm like, I'm not trying to quote unquote make it. So I'm doing whatever the hell I want, because I'll admit I'm lazy. Because I don't feel that safe space yet, which obviously you're really comfortable, but I feel fulfilled after, but I still feel incredibly nervous because I don't perform enough on a regular basis. So I totally get like, I'm amazed that like that. I'm in awe of that. That's really cool that you have had that experience.
It was super fun. I mean, honestly, the first year of me performing was me being petrified. Honestly, it took me like a year of getting on stage and bombing for almost the whole entire year. And what I did was I started going to Harlem, because I knew that, well, first of all, I knew that if the audiences in the West Village were very mixed. And what I noticed was that the people who were not white were very, very, on average, typically, except for Alicia Silverstone, very interactive. They would be like, this sucks, or you're not funny, or boo, or next, or whatever. And I was like, I need that kind of feedback. I need that because I'm not going to get good without it. And I shouldn't be afraid of it. I should try to lean into it. So I started going to Harlem because I knew that I was going to get a really honest and vocal reaction from people. So I did. I started going to open mics, and I went up there for like 3 months, and I just hit all the mics, and it was amazing. I saw this change go from me hearing like next, you stink, to laughter and to appreciation. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm starting to get comfortable. I feel like I can, do more of a kind of a, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, broad audience, if you will. So that was, definitely an interesting and telling kind of experience and observation. And then from there, I felt like I could do comedy anywhere. Like I can literally walk into any audience, anywhere. I don't care if there's 10,000 people or 2 people, and like bring my best and not do it fearfully. So I encourage everybody to go to a space where you are going to feel the least comfortable and do it as much as you can. Like that's definitely, what I would recommend for any comedian, as hard as that sounds, because obviously you want to go to a space where you feel kind of comfortable and supported. Sorry about the siren in the background if you can hear it.
Oh,
The
can't even hear
Poconos
it.
thinks it's New York City right now.
It's like trying to give you a taste of your years in New York City.
I know.
Yeah,
It's like, you miss
one
me,
thing
you want to hop on?
you talk about being comfortable, and I'll admit this. I remember when we were connected through social media, you talked about this, and I think you still do it, this comedy that you do for like moms, like a mommy and me kind of thing. And I'll admit I was not comfortable, and I had said no. And I see you post and I see the other comedians. My hat is off to you, because I guess like I limit myself, and because like I said, I'm making comedy what I like. It's fun for me to write jokes. It's fun for me to perform and talking about where I'm at in life, and health, women's health, and all that good stuff. But I'll admit I'm a little bit of a chicken. Like I want the audience to like I'm afraid to go into those situations, because I was like, doing comedy at kind of like a mommy and me thing, like I can't do that. I fully admit I chickened out. That's why I said no. But I admire that you're doing that, and that's proof that you could do it anywhere.
It's a great show, and it's something that's really needed. I feel like this is a community that really does need a space to be able to be around other adults. I feel like as a parent of young kids, I find myself just around young kids all the time, and days go by where I'm not interacting with other adults except for like at work or whatever. And I don't think that's healthy. Like we need to have interaction with other adults. So this show gives parents and kids an opportunity where it's like the kids can play, there's an indoor play space, and the parents can kind of chill a little bit off to the side and have coffee and talk and laugh together. And we just got a new sponsor, which I'm super excited about. It's a cookie shop in Tannersville called Dirty Dog Cookies. And I'm so excited. They're going to be providing our like cookies for families now. And you know these cookies. They're not like, it's not like a little, it's like a big, delicious, amazing cookie. And that's like awesome. Basically, you're going to be like getting your money back in cookies now for tickets, which is kind of a nice thing. And also, who doesn't like a good cookie, on a Saturday morning?
Yeah.
Terrible parent alert right here. Like, give the
I
kids
love
some
that.
cookies. Yeah. So anyway,
Let me ask you about and this is me, because I don't fully admit I don't have kids. I'm not someone who's like, the type that's like, oh my God, look at how cute. My thing, and I've admitted to this,
I'm
I
not like
don't
that either.
I just met someone the other day who's like, I don't like other people's kids either. But like I know the world has changed, our environment's changed. Like I go to wineries and they're always chock full of kids anymore, and breweries. For me, I don't love that. That's not what I'm there for. But whatever, that's not what this today is about. But when you're talking about the mommy and me and like the performance, is there ever like a question? I guess when I think about it is like making the material like, because granted they're little kids, but they could still hear things. Is it a concern, or is it hard to make it like appropriate, or to make it like, or is, you know what I mean? Like
That's fair. That's fair. And so first of all, my background, and you know this, and I don't know, I'll just tell you my background is when I started doing comedy, I started stand up, and I really love doing stand up, but pretty quickly I decided I wanted to incorporate my guitar because I noticed right away that it kind of set me apart. And I entered this contest called the Dirtiest Sketch Competition Ever or something like that at UCB. And I think I was like I'm either a finalist or I won. I think I might have won with the Dirtiest Song. And it was a song that I still perform today. It's about 3 guys I was in love with, and how it went terribly wrong, and it was horribly disgusting. And it's a funny song, but it's pretty edgy, let's say. It's not something you might hear on like public radio or whatnot. But and honestly, that ended up being something that really worked for me. And I toured as a dirty folk rock comedian for the better part of a decade. I did all these like major festivals: Edinburgh, Reading and Leeds, Latitude, South by Southwest, Dublin Comedy Festival. Just a lot of these great comedy festivals and things on that vehicle. So there's this expression I've heard over the years: it's dance with the one that brought you to the dance. And I feel like dirty folk rock music really did bring me to the dance, and I was dancing with it, and I love it, and I still have a special place for it. That being said, I've since had children, and it's been really hard for me to kind of balance and negotiate this mom figure, because America and society, the puritanical basis of our country, is really founded on people who they didn't want to celebrate, they didn't want to practice religion in the way that was being practiced in England. They ran away to be able to be actually stricter. They wanted to burn their witches. They wanted to, be a little bit more sort of puritanical. And that's where we are here as a country over, the years of that has morphed into what we have now. And there is an element of America that's like, we don't want, that kind of stuff. There are some people, of course, who are like, yeah, bring it. We want more dirty. But overall, in general, I feel like the vibe is like, keep it PG 13, maybe at worst, kind of a thing. So as a parent, trying to kind of negotiate that, of like, okay, now I have kids, my kids are in school. I don't want to be the mom who shows up at school singing the dirty folk rock songs and having the other moms be like, but at the same time, I kind of also don't really care, because this is who I am, and I accept who I am, and I like who I am. But how can I sort of negotiate that? And one way is with the Mommy and Me show. It's really pushed me to be able to create material that is family friendly, that does work in all audiences. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with being able to do both of those things. I know there are some comedians who would be like, I'm a dirty comic and that's what I am. Or people who are like, I'm a clean comic and that's who I am. And I say, like, hey, why be so strict? Can I do some clean stuff in the morning and some dirty stuff at night? Like, can I be like daytime Barbie with like my nighttime Barbie change of, persona or whatever? So that's definitely been something I've been working on and trying to kind of figure out.
I think that's great, because I think when we do try, then we're stretching ourselves and our creativity. And I think, like, as far as the clean comedy, I know a couple of folks who are doing great with that, and you can get like corporate gigs with that, which is great. So why wouldn't you want to do clean? The dirty stuff,
Yeah.
it's like, it's funny because with the shows that I've produced, like, I like to have women comedians and I do it for women audience. I just never really wanted, like when I started, really dirty a comedy, because mine wasn't. And like to have that together just kind of doesn't mix. But it's like, I'm not like a prude. Like I can laugh at it, and it's just like, that's not the jokes I write. Like there is part of me that I want to explore, so I would like to try some dirtier stuff, but like that hasn't been me. But what I kind of, and I don't know what your thought on this is, I kind of feel though that, like, so guys get a free pass where it's like, I don't mind dirty if it's at least somewhat smart. Like I don't love just a bunch of stupid dick jokes and like F this, F that, F. You say F a million times, like who gives a shit? Like you're not. And I feel like guys get a pass for that, where audiences are less interested in hearing women talk about their vajayjay or about like their sexual experiences. And that's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I applaud you even more for the fact that you are doing it. But do you see that too, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, the fact is that comedy is really like, it's a young white man's game. And that's just all there is to it. And it appeals, I think, to young white men in a really important way. And I believe that all people, but for whatever reason, specifically this kind of category, this demographic, they really need and sort of like lean into comedy very hard, because who knows, like maybe they didn't get enough love from mommy. I don't know, but like this is a way that it gets them like interaction from an audience. A lot of comedians rely on stand-up comedy to get like like attention from women. I know a lot of guys who basically just get all of their girlfriends basically from doing stand-up, and that's like how they feed that that need. And I don't have any like real beef about that. I really don't. But it is frustrating being a woman and trying to find the right sort of spaces where I'm not being judged for doing the same kind of comedy or the same kind of explorative like content as some of the guys are. Not to say that only white guys do stand up. Obviously, it's so diverse now. I mean, there are so many comedians. I used to know every single comedian, and now every day I hear 20 new names that I'm like, I never heard it, never heard, and these are people with like hundreds of thousands of followers. I think that obviously COVID and some other social media boosting was able to really help a lot of comedians. People who maybe were not traditional stand-up comedians find that comedy space. But I really love that that I am not afraid to explore that, because it's fun. It's super fun to get to, and I think it's important for everybody to. I think that the world would be a better place if more people were willing and able to say things that they wanted to be able to say, but for whatever reason they feel like they're being judged.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
a comedy space is the perfect space to be able to do that. I'm not saying everyone should start comedy, because we're full. there's so many comedians. But I definitely think that it's a skill that everybody should at least play around with.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your attitude. I would say like fearless, like, and I think that's great, because that's how it should be. Being able to express yourself. I think that's great. Um, Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about how having kids changed your comedy, because I know you do a few jokes about being a mom, and I love the fact, and you're right, using your guitar. I think you're clearly separated apart from so many different comedians who, and I think that music too. People are really excited by that. They're impressed by that. They seem to love that a lot. But tell me a little bit more about how it's been with the kids. I mean, I'm sure there's challenges with the scheduling, with all kinds of stuff, and yet you still seem to do quite a bit and produce shows and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not on stage nearly as much as I used to be or would like to be. I only really do like a couple shows, maybe a week or month now, compared to, like I said, 5 to 15 sets a night in my like fighting, years. But my kids, in some ways, they really boost my comedy because they say hilarious things all the time. Like my daughter the other day, I have to tell you this because it's so funny. There was like one of, the little like triangle pads that go into like bikinis or bras or whatnot,
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
found one of those on the ground. And I was like, okay, are you ready to go downstairs for dinner? And she goes, yeah, I just have to try this on really quick. And she picked up the little padding from my bathing suit and she like held it up to her chest and she goes, yep, perfect. And like that kind of, I mean, I don't even know how I would use that in a comedy set, but it's just that kind of stuff that is constantly reminding me to laugh and finding little ways to laugh and laugh together. And I really rely very heavily on comedy to get me through parenting because it is so, so, so hard for me. Some people I don't think maybe probably are as challenged with parenting as I am. But for me, I had a complete identity change. I had 2 C-sections. I which like no, I was like, my mom had 6 kids, so I was like, I'm gonna have 2 C-sections. I'm gonna have I'll have a million kids and it'll be fine. But it didn't work out that way for me. 2 C-sections, 2 kind of traumatizing, experiences. And it just like laid me out, as like a human. And then I had to recover from that quickly and be like, okay, I'm ready to mom. We're gonna do this. We're doing mom stuff. And I mean, it was really intense, and it still is really intense because I have a child with special needs, and I have my kids need me, and I want to be there for them, which is why I'm not on stage every single night. But I keep my foot in the door because I put a lot of work into this, and it's something I'm really passionate about, and I'm not gonna kind of like quit or give up. This is something I plan to do hopefully for the rest of my life. And it's been funny because like over the years I've had day jobs and things like that. And it can sometimes like get a little bit strange, I think, for corporations to be like, oh, she also does comedy and she writes these like dirty folk songs. But it's also like I know if it's gonna work or not, pretty much right away. It's like almost like a single, like when you date someone and you're like, I just have to get this out of the way. I have 16 cats. Or is this going to be, a problem? Yeah. So it's like, I got to get this out of the way. I sing dirty folk rock songs. Is that going to be an issue? But my kids, they've heard some of my content, not all of it. Obviously, some things I do try to protect them from. but I do bring them with me to shows. I think it's awesome for them to get to see their mom doing something that she's passionate about, especially for my daughter who may someday become a mom. And I want her to see that you can balance your own personal life with your motherhood as well. I think that, again, like America has this kind of weird mentality of how moms should behave and what is expected of them, and women in general. This is a certain type of behavior that women should exhibit, and when they don't, it's weird and it's inappropriate and whatnot. And I'm not really on board with that. So I think that women, just like men, are complex creatures, and we are capable of a gamut of emotions and thoughts and feelings. And why try to pigeonhole, women into behaving like XYZ? And then not have that same expectation for men, or have that expectation for men. Men should be doing all the work. Men should be joining the army. Men should be fixing the roof. Men should be whatever.
Yeah.
I just think that humanity is more complex than that. So anyway, leave it to me to go on a tangent. I will.
No, it's so true what you're saying, but I love what you're saying though too about being like kind of a role model for your daughter, because maybe it is cool for her to see, hey, that's mom up there and she's getting laughs, and that's like spreading joy, and that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, it's like Gandhi, right? I remember hearing a story about Gandhi where he like ditched his family to go take care. He was always like going to be the savior for other people and helping other people. And like doctors, doctors are never home for their families. And I'm definitely trying to find a balance. I'm not comparing myself to Gandhi. I'm just saying that, I feel like there's a balance that should be there. I'm never going to like abandon my family for comedy, but I'm not going to exactly abandon comedy either. Like it's something I'm passionate about and love doing. And I don't really have that much of an issue with people like, because I've been doing it for so long at this point. Like, it's who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think regardless of what people, what's that?
I said, did I freeze for a second?
Yeah, you did. Sorry.
Unfroze.
No, that's okay. I think regardless of what people do, and like, comedy or something else, I think everybody's trying to balance something. So, I mean, like you're doing that balance. And I think a lot of people are trying to balance a lot of different things in their lives. So that makes perfect sense. Tell me about, so we've got coming up, or I should say you've got coming up in the Poconos, the first, I think this is the first year for this NEPA Comedy Festival, and it's going to be in October. And I think it's my gosh, you've got a ton of comedians on, and I'll post in the show notes like more information and where people can find out more about it. But tell me how all this got started, because I feel like I'm seeing more comedy festivals pop up now, which is cool because it's more opportunities to enjoy comedy. Tell me it's a lot of work, I'm sure, as I know what it's like to produce a show, so I can only imagine what this is like. What got you inspired or motivated to do this, and tell me all about it.
Okay, so the NEPA Comedy Festival, it's October 3rd to the 5th. We've got 16 shows, 70 comedians. We're spread out across, I think, maybe 6 or 7 venues, and we're getting more venues and more events on a daily basis. So what inspired the festival was that for several years, I've been like, we need a festival out here. There's a lot of comedians. We're all kind of spread out. It would be great to be able to not only bring them together, but to bring some comedians from New York, from Philly, from around the country, bring them here. The Poconos is such a historically kind of culturally interesting place. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be awesome to have a comedy festival here during peak foliage season? Because people go out, they look at the leaves during the day, and then at night they're like, all right, now what do we do? Well, we got this comedy festival. We're going to grab those folks who are like here kind of, idle hands who don't really know what else to do. And it's such a tourism spot as well. But as you know, whenever you go to a tourism kind of spot, there are lots of things to do. Like you can go visit the, tractor museum, or you can go to the, the farm market or whatever. And that's really nice and that's really great. But maybe if you want something a little bit more with a little more bite, or a little more, like something kind of more that you can think about or laugh about or whatever, then there's the comedy festival. It's just a different offering for folks who are into that. And we know that there are a lot of people who are very into comedy, that comedy is a growing industry. And over the years, it's really grown. It's a multi-billion dollar industry at this point, if you consider like television and radio and all the media outlets, and even the little comedy shows and comedians. Each stand-up comedian is like a little mini solo entrepreneur, you know, it's like a small business. And I feel like comedians are kind of overlooked, not really valued for what we have and what we bring to the table, because most comedians are interesting because we are multi-business owners, because we also usually operate a small business. We have contacts across a broad range of you know, people, and then each comedian who knows other comedians knows almost like two small businesses per person, or two, you know, so there's a lot of resources there that I feel like they're kind of being undertapped. Each small business comedian brings, you know, money into whatever community they perform in by way of being on the show that they're in, the lineup or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so there's like 6-7 comedians on a show. Each one of them is posting them on social media. Each comedian is worth, you know, at least and I have to like do math on this. I haven't done it yet. I would say each comedian is worth like $200, you know, in terms of like drinks sold, ticket sales, advertising put out on their social media, gas that they spend to get there, food that they buy on the way. You know, each comedian is worth like $200 to $250. And then you have 7 of them, right? That's like, you know, like a couple $1,000 that each venue who puts on a show is kind of getting. And then plus the people who come in to see the show. So there's really like a good little financial ecosystem there. And one of the things that I'm working on with the state of Pennsylvania, I'm hoping to try to create a comedy trail. So the idea is just like the ice cream trail or the pizza trail or the haunted house trail, there would be a comedy trail. And with the comedy trail, it would sort of outline all around the state different comedy spots and shows and whatnot that you could participate in, and you could see them all, because there really is a hunger for content, as we see online. And, you know, Instagram, whatever, all these different apps are thriving because of all this content. So I find that comedians are like, and like musicians, same thing. They're like the last stop in terms of like where the money goes. And I'd love to change that. I'd love for more comedians to be able to really take advantage of that. And I think that the festival, in addition to having shows, comedy shows for the performers to perform in, etc., I want comedians to be able to learn from each other, learn from being involved in the festival, see what we're building. Maybe they'll go back to Ohio and be like, you know what, I'm going to do a festival here next year. Or, you know, maybe they say, you know what, I really learned from that festival. I saw these comedians and I saw the way they kind of do their thing, and I really want to learn from that and kind of emulate that. Or, you know, so it's a really awesome learning experience. Not only is it a great thing for people to attend, but it's a great experience for comedians as well. And if you think about it, each comedian is also a booker, because we all have our own shows that we perform on and that we produce. I produce at least 2 or 3 shows in a festival. And, you know, now there's 70 of us in one place. So very rarely do you get an opportunity to interact with like 70 comedians and, you know, get to meet them and exchange, you know, shows and bookings and things like that. So it's a really nice boost to any comedians like arsenal of, you know, where they'll perform and who they know, stuff like that.
Yeah. I love that. I love the business side of it that you're bringing out, which is so important, because the arts are, you know, our artists are so, you know, the whole starving artist thing, it is true. You know, I mean, how many times, even with my business doing laughter yoga, I mean, so many times being asked to donate time and services, or being underpaid. So I love your, you know, bringing attention to the business aspect of it, and for people to maybe are new to it to learn and to like get inspired to do something similar in their area or their region, or from connecting with folks there, they could have new opportunities. And I love the idea of that trail.
Mm-hmm.
I instantly thought of a wine trail, but I love the idea of a comedy trail. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I reached out to the state, and I'm hoping, I have interest from a couple state reps who are hopefully going to help us like build it out. But one of the things about this festival is we did ask comedians who were submitting to send in a fee of 25, or we had 25 at first, and then after a certain time we changed it to 30 for the people who didn't do it on the early side. And that money, a lot of comedians were like, you know, well, why do I have to pay $30 to perform? And that, to me, that resonates with me. Like I hear that and I understand it, but my goal was to give them back at least $30 worth of sort of services, or give, you know, goods or services to make up for that. And one of the things that we're having like a party for all the comedians with food and drinks. We're having everyone's going to get like I'm working on a t-shirt or a hoodie for everybody to take back, gift bags, and also headshots, so a lot of people don't even have headshots. And I got to say, we looked at almost 200 submissions, and so many of the submissions they were dimly lit. The sound was weird. They were too short. They were too long. The camera was angle was wonky. The material was like, delivered not in the best way. They were filmed at an open mic, not that there's anything wrong with filming at an open mic, but it's like, there's just a certain level, I think, of as a performer or a business or whatever, like obviously you want to put out your best, and I don't think that a lot of people, maybe they don't know that, or they don't know it yet, or it's something they're still working on. So it was a great opportunity for me to be like, wow, there's a lot of people out there who do need a little bit of, support. And this is a way that we can do that.
Yeah, I have to say you're giving comedians a lot, because I'll admit I did not sign up this year only because I have some personal stuff going on and I'm trying not to commit to things. Plus, I wasn't sure what would be going on then, but I have this past summer. Through the years, I've never really entered any festivals, never did any of that. Last year I did Lehigh Valley's Funniest. This year I did NEPA's Funniest, and I signed up for Good Karma, which I couldn't even end up performing because I had some family issues go on. But I mean, you pay for all of those, and honestly, I'm not bad mouthing anyone, but you didn't really, you didn't get what you're saying. You're giving comedians like more than their money's worth, to be honest. So I applaud you for that. That's good.
That's the goal. The goal is people walking away being like, I got more out of this than I maybe necessarily put into it. And also, honestly, like with what you're talking about, these shows, I enter all those same shows. I've been doing comedy for like, I'm like dropping my age here. I've been doing comedy for 20 years. Okay. I performed all over the world. I performed on TV, the radio. I have a Wikipedia page. Like, if anyone sees me on the internet, as far as everyone is concerned, like I might as well be like a famous comedian. You know what I mean? But I'm still out there paying for opportunities to perform. And some people may be like, oh, well, that like belittles you, or why would you do that? Or like whatever. But it's like, I don't I don't care. I don't care what you think about how I do my business. I want to perform. I want to be seen by these people. It's worth it for me. Sometimes you just pay the 25 bucks, you know what I mean? And you get an opportunity to be seen, and you get to meet 20 or 30 or 40 other comedians in one night. And as far as I'm concerned, I really do see the value of other comedians. It's like you were talking about with building community. This is our community. These are the people, and all of the amazing bookings I've gotten over the years have been through comedians. The TV shows, the radio spots, the festivals. Like I'd say 90% of any of the big things that I've gotten, I booked. One of the biggest gigs I got paid $30,000. I got it from a comedian. I mean, every gig I've ever had that was really like legit. So, I mean, I don't have an agent. I've never really had an agent. I've had people who've kind of like filled in that spot. I have a manager who I I have a couple people who I work with a little bit, but I never really had an agent. And honestly, like I've been busy. I've been plenty busy. I've done all the things that a comedian would want to do without that. And I did it through other comedians. So
Yeah. That's important. Yeah, I think that's great. And to your point about, why you enter, like with NEPA's Funniest, I wanted to perform at Wisecrackers. I wanted to, I got a nice, for additional, I think it was $10 to get the recording that they did. I don't have enough good recordings. So that way I was able to get them, which was great, which was helpful. So like if you have your reasons, that's your business, right? I mean, that's, and that's it, as long as it fulfills it for you. But I just think what you're giving is really good. So I applaud you for that. That's great. They're getting value. Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate that. And the town, I gotta say, has been super supportive of this festival. They're like into it. The venue, who is our naming sponsor, Newberry's Yard of Ale, they have that underground bar called Hideaway. They're so into it. They're so supportive. He's like, I want to grow this. He's like, this is going to be huge. Like he has a great vision for it. One of the other venues we're working with, Vault 636, they just took over Shinsa, and they're super excited about it. And I want to grow with them as well. They're very supportive. They're like trying to think of ideas. Pickle Fest they're like, we want you to come and do some comedy here. We have a lot of different places across town who are very supportive and they see the value and they see the future growth of this. And talking about economics and financial stuff, that's not someplace that I came from. You know, my dad was a business, small business owner, entrepreneur. So I did get to watch him a little bit, and maybe I picked up a little bit of that, but I don't come from like a, you know, a wealthy family or anything like that. I learned early on. I took actually a class in New York City. It was called Artist Summer Institute. And the idea was, it was by this place called Mass MoCA. And their thing was basically like comedians need help with financial, you know, information and support. It's not something that's innate. It's not just comedians. The whole world needs us, and that's why you know, white rich men are on top of the world, and the rest of us are all kind of like, hey, can I have a crumb? Can I have a sandwich? You know, we've got people trying just desperately to get like healthcare, to get their basic needs met. And this information it's free information and it's out there, but at the same time, it's kind of also sort of guarded in a way. So if I can pass on what the Artist Summer Institute gave to me, which was great. It was a week-long workshop of like budgeting and grant writing and, you know, how to do social media stuff. This is like, it was back a few years ago. But I learned so much from that I've used over the years. And my little sister took it with me, and she's gone on to have an amazing career. You know, she started working as a graphic designer for Dogfish Head Brewery. And she was an artist, and she wanted to like have a career in art, and she's got a great career. And I really believe that workshop was one of the reasons why.
I wish there were more of those, and you're absolutely right. Everybody needs to learn those, but that sounds incredible. I mean, grant writing, all that stuff to find where that stuff is, how you can apply for a grant, where do you even go for that? Because that's so incredible. It's really valuable. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I do want to say that place, because that's where I got to perform in January, the Hideaway, right? That little speakeasy is so cool. Anyone who's ever out that way in Stroudsburg, what is it, New Yard? How do you say that? Newberry?
Newberry's Yard of Ale, and underneath there they have this gorgeous little room, and they actually opened it up now. So it was about like a 50 kind of 45 seat room. Now it's a 70 seat room. And it's sort of turned. So the stage is now in the middle of the long room, and the bar is all there and everything. The last show we did there was packed, and it was incredible. That room full is the best room that I've seen in Stroudsburg. And I mean that. We're also doing something with Sherman Showcase, the little side room next to Sherman Theater, which is like John Greer's show that he runs there. And that's a great room too. It's a little bit of a smaller room, but as far as I can see, this room is one of the best like small comedy room spaces in the area. So I'm super excited to get to work with them. I also have been talking to Sherman Theater about maybe using another space that they have, and I'll have more information about that if that works out. But you know, there's not a proper comedy club really here. And there's not a lot of proper comedy clubs really in the area. You know, there's Wisecrackers and like a couple others. There's like, you know, but so we're scrambling here to find, you know, what we can and make the comedy scene here as legitimate as possible, because the area deserves a good comedy scene, you know, and we all deserve to laugh. It's a necessary life element is laughter, for sure. I don't think a lot of people laugh as much as they need to. I even heard one lady say, I don't really like to laugh. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, so I just think of George's mother, like never, not once, not a tee-hee, nothing. I can't imagine saying like, nah, I don't want to laugh. No thanks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Same.
Well, as we start to wrap up, tell me how people can help. Obviously by attending, right? Is there a specific website, or should people go to Facebook? And do you still need sponsors? How can people help support?
We have Indiegogo like fundraiser going right now, and there's all kinds of perks and things like that. If you attend, you can get your tickets for the festival that way. You can get your badges for the festival that way, and a badge can basically give you access to all the shows in the festival. We have sort of like a junior badge and then like a VIP badge. We have like merchandise. If you donate, you can get like a hoodie. We have these really cute hoodies with like leaves and stuff all over them. And this is NEPA Comedy Festival. It's really cute. Hunter orange. And, we have a lot of different little perks. So you can do that. We're looking for sponsors. We want people to, we need money, but we need other things too. We need things for gift bags. We need items to, we're having a fundraiser in Scranton on September 9th, I want to say it is, which is at the Loft. And we have, we need volunteers. We need people who are going to show up and help direct people and answer questions. And, but ultimately we're in pretty good shape. We have a really good team. Chris Jones, Forrest Hyken, Zach, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Oh, I can't believe it. No, I know his
Hammond?
Zach Hammonds. Yeah, Zach Hammonds. We have Ryan Manzo and Ryan P. Flaherty are sort of like core, and Angelia and Petrillo. She is also just come on to help with a specific kind of fundraising aspect of the festival. And these are local comedians, and they're super hardworking. They are super dedicated. They're working for free. I'm working for free. We're all working. We're doing this for free. And I want everybody to know, like, the money that we're getting is going into the festival. No one's getting like a paycheck, or I'm not taking all the money and like, putting water in my pool. Like, we're literally using this money to build this festival. And if I make $0, if I end up spending money this year to do this festival, that'll be okay, because I'm going to make it up down the road. Because this is going to be, it's going to grow, and it's going to be something. And I did a festival in New York City, the NY Funny Songs Fest. I did it for 5 years, and it was fantastic. And I'm so glad that I'm getting to do it here, and I'm sad that I don't get to do it. I mean, I could still do a festival in New York, but it's like I live here now, and I want to put my energy where I am in my immediate community. So
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Where would you like to direct people to follow you specifically, or sign up for your newsletter or whatever?
Oh yeah, so I write a comedy newsletter. It's called The Muse-letter. It's on Substack. I have not been writing it that much lately, just because I've been overwhelmed with festival stuff, but you can subscribe to that. You can follow me on Instagram at Jessica Delfino. I post commonly there, also on Instagram, NEPA Comedy Fest. And we post, updates there pretty regularly. Our website is nepacomedyfest.org. My website is jessdelfino.com. But mostly I put things on like Instagram and TikTok at the Jess Delfino. And it's not hard to find me. If you want, just put my name in Google, you'll find me.
Yeah.
I'm out there.
All right, cool. Well, and I will put in the show notes. I'll definitely put in a link to you and a link to the festival. I want to thank you so much. I'm so glad we were able to spend this time and connect, because I feel like I know you a little bit better, which I love. I love hearing about you, and I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope the festival goes great. And hopefully I will at least get out there to see some shows. And I think it's awesome what you're doing. So thank you for all the hard work you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to ask you more questions about yourself. And I guess we'll have to do this again, maybe not in front of a camera, and we can talk turkey.
Yes, we could talk. I don't know, I say jive turkey. I don't know why I want to say that, but like as a Gen Xer in me, the 70s jive turkey. Yeah, it's been, well, hey, this was meant to be more about you. Obviously, I usually interject like I do, but this was about you. It was about learning about the festival and getting it out there so that people can support it. And I think it's amazing, and I think I look forward to it. I hope you get to do it again every year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for this.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And for folks listening, this is great that it's in the Poconos, because, I know I have listeners in Philadelphia, listeners in New York, listeners local here in Northeast PA. It's great because it's not a far drive. We know it's not a far drive from Scranton. It's not far from Philly. It's not far from New York. So it's a great location. Check out. And I know a lot of the comedians, a lot of my friends, Tim Conniff's someone that I've performed with. I love Tim. He's great. All the people that Jessica has mentioned, they're all great guys and gals that are performing. So there's no shortage of talent, is what I'm trying to say. So definitely check it out.
And I just want to also just mention, it is in Stroudsburg. I don't know if I mentioned the name of the town, Stroudsburg, PA. It's like an hour and a half from Philly, an hour and a half from New York, 45 minutes from Scranton, 30 minutes from Allentown, 30 minutes from Bethlehem. It's really well kind of centrally located.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. And that's what I mean. It's like really not that hard to get to from, well, not from wherever you are, but you know what I'm saying. The peeps who are listening to this
Not
for the
from
most
Hawaii.
part. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's probably not an easy get over there. But thank you again. And thank you, listeners. Keep listening. I'm working on getting the next several weeks set up. I'll definitely in the weeks ahead, I'm going to have a little bit of a recap. Well, not a recap so much, but kind of maybe some insights or reflection from you heard from Natalie Jarosky. I had her on, oh gosh, I don't even remember. The months are going by so quickly, but back in, I want to say the winter or spring, even, she was having Scranton Girls Rock. It was a camp for young girls. It was held in July. It was her first year doing it. These are held throughout the country, different, I don't want, maybe the word is chapter, they're kind of like nonprofit, and everyone kind of come and like does their own. And she right now she is living in Florida, but she's from Scranton. She wanted to do something for her hometown, and that took place in July. The first year she wants to keep it going, so you will hear from two different women who were involved. One who was involved as like a volunteer working with the kids, and the other woman whose daughter attended, and she also volunteered to help. So you'll be hearing from them in the coming weeks. And as I say each week, if you know a woman, or maybe you're that woman who would like to be on the podcast, my goal is to give a platform for women to speak, share their stories, their experiences, so that listeners get informed, inspired, and entertained. So reach out to me. Don't hesitate. And if you'd like to be a sponsor for this podcast, it is definitely affordable. Again, as I say each week, if you're someone who buys coffee out of the home every day, sponsorship packages are cheaper than that. So if you want to help give a platform or help empower this platform, please reach out to me. And as I say every week, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.